Regular Thursday COVID-19 briefing. Please take some time, if you wouldn't mind, to share this on Facebook. So this is information that people are going to want to know. Just an observance. Things are getting nicer outside. It's rainy this week, but it's still a good time to enjoy a little oxygen. And so please keep social distancing, but take some time to get outside and enjoy some sunshine if you can the next few days. We're going to start, as we always have, with a word of prayer. If you don't want to pray along with us, you don't have to, but I'm going to pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day. Thank you for your protection. We pray for your wisdom to fall upon our leaders, your blessing to fall upon our county. God, be with those who are struggling, those who are sick. God, be with those who are on our first line. And I pray that your hand will be upon them in a very powerful way. And we pray. Amen. Of course, we're going to invite Charlotte to come up and give us our latest update. Charlotte, if you'll just hit the button at the bottom of that microphone. Thank you.
Sorry. Again, good morning, everyone. We appreciate you tuning in again this morning. We'll get started with our update. As of April 22nd, which was yesterday at 2 p.m., there were 6,137 positive cases of COVID-19 reported in the state. Of those, there are currently 99 cities and counties reporting positive cases and 18 counties with no current reported cases. This next slide shows a case snapshot over the past 2-week period in the state and how cases have grown. The least amount of case increase occurred just this week from Monday to Tuesday with 134 cases. The highest amount of case increase occurred the previous week in the same time frame from Monday to Tuesday with a total of 298 cases. Our average number of cases during this time frame, this 2-week period, has been 206 cases per day on the average. While our younger populations continue to see smaller numbers of the COVID-19 positive cases, those ranging in age from 40 to 69 continue to be the largest number of positive cases across the state. And the 50 to 59 age range continues to show the highest numbers at a current level of 1,186 cases. And on the pie chart, that is the darker blue area. As of yesterday, the reported deaths here in the state totaled 208. And as you can see from the graph there, those numbers go up according to the age groups. So our under 20 and 20 to 29 have no reported deaths. 30 to 39 have 3. 40 to 49 are at 5. 50 to 59 goes to 21. 60 to 69 is at 43. 70 to 79 is 54. And the age group that is showing the most number of deaths is our 80 plus with 82 current numbers. So as of this morning, with no new reports being received, our current local numbers are as follows. The total number of known testing is at 173. The total number of known negative is 163. Positive remains at 0, and we currently have 10 total number of pending tests. And so these are as of this morning, right before the briefing started. We all are hearing about different types of tests, and so this next slide is going to help explain those a bit more. So the first test, the PCR COVID-19 test, we'll talk about. It detects the presence of the COVID-19 virus. It also indicates that a likely current infection is occurring. The other test, the serological test, also will detect the presence of antibodies from previous exposure to the virus. However, it is not useful to determine current infection. And to answer some additional questions about testing options for COVID-19, because we know there's many questions and there'll be many more to come as more serological testing is done. The FDA has developed a question and answer page on their website. And so at the very bottom of this slide, you can see the link. You can go to www.fda.gov, and in their search bar, if you'll just type in antibody testing, it will bring up that Q&A document and will answer a lot of those questions for you. In a Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services health update that was released just yesterday, the testing criteria for the state public health lab has been updated. And that new criteria allows testing for the following individuals. First of all, anyone who is a symptomatic close contact of a patient who is suspected to have COVID-19 with a pending test or have been laboratory confirmed to have a COVID-19 positive test. So anyone who is symptomatic meeting those criteria could be tested. Secondly, a symptomatic healthcare worker, law enforcement officer, fire department personnel, or other first responders are now eligible to be tested through the state public health laboratory. The third bullet point shows that symptomatic residents of congregate living facilities, so for example, nursing homes, can be tested. Fourth, symptomatic hospitalized patients can be tested. And the final bullet point shows that symptomatic patients who are at high risk for negative outcomes. So again, we've spoken in other briefings about individuals who have underlying health issues. So anyone possibly with COPD, diabetes, heart disease, or a compromised immune system, if they are symptomatic, can certainly be tested. So the public health state public health lab criteria has opened up for additional testing. If individuals still do not meet the criteria for the state public health lab, you do have other options. And again, those options are commercial laboratories, university laboratories, and private laboratories. But it's very important to remember that no matter your testing source, you must have a referral from your healthcare provider. The next slide that will come up, you probably remember this from last week's briefing. This information was provided last week, but we wanted to remind you again. Our staff and members of the City of Lebanon staff worked on this document. We polled our local healthcare providers on what options and procedures they had as far as testing our community. And so this has been shared on our Facebook page, on the city's Facebook pages, and we just wanted to remind our residents that this was available and that information is out there. So we just felt it was strongly needed to provide that information again. As we draw near to the end date of the statewide stay-at-home order, our agency is awaiting further guidance from the governor's office and from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. While we await that further guidance, we have been working with our local partners on options for safely reopening LACLEDE County in phases. And some of the partners that are here today are going to speak to some of that, but we just want our county residents to know that we are working on that. We are wanting to do it very safely, but we are also wanting to try to get many of our businesses open back up, and so please know that that is being worked on. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to the next speaker, and we'll provide you some updated information.
Thank you, Brother Kelly. Thank you, Charlotte. It's good to be here this morning and share with you. A couple of things I wanted to share about. One, position from an elected official, county commission, and then I want to share from the Chamber of Commerce perspective, where I'm the executive director here at the Lebanon Chamber of Commerce. First, from the perspective of the county commission, from Darrell Pollack. This has been a long 30 days, I guess. It looks like about April or March 23rd, March 24th is when we went in. Today's April 23rd. As I look at, there's a lot of things that we can take from this, but I want to take it from a perspective of gifts. That if you look at things from the perspective of having gifts, we've had a lot of gifts given to us, presented to us in our community. How about our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our techs, cafeteria workers, administration, maintenance, those that are taking care of the cleanup, the health department, all of those are gifts to us. This morning I was preparing to come to work, and here comes the waste removal truck down the street, and they never stop. And, there's a lot of risk involved with that, but that's a gift. Our mail delivery, our post office, gifts. Grocery store workers, lumber and building supply, farm and home, agriculture. All of that continued on as a gift. Law enforcement, fire, our state, city, and county workers, they continue to put the effort in that was required of them to continue our day-to-day. And those are gifts. Our nonprofits, our food distribution to those through no fault of their own have found themselves in a need position. And so another step up, another gift. How about our employers, our essential workers, and our families and their families, and how that has, they, even in uncertain times, rose above that, did their job, and came back home. Another gift. There's a lot of those. I'm probably going to skip half of them because I want to get over to the Chamber of Commerce side as well. But our citizens and businesses who have clearly stepped up to the stay safe in our community. And I can tell you that because Charlotte just shared we still have 0 positives in LaClede County. So that's a gift for those folks that have clearly stepped up in our community. And so we're very thankful for those gifts from God. So we thank you for that, first and foremost. Secondly, I wanted to share about a survey that was done by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. It was conducted to determine how businesses were being impacted. These results illustrate the tremendous impact that the coronavirus is having upon our community and our state. 15% of business leaders expect their business will permanently close as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. Employee impact. 50% of employers expect to enact temporary layoffs. 50%. 17% expect permanent layoff. That old adage, it's recession if your neighbor loses his job, but it's a depression if it's you that loses your job. 17% will expect permanent layoff. The revenue impact, 14% of Missouri businesses are seeing a revenue increase. 14%. Wouldn't be hard to figure out which one of those are probably having the revenue increase. If you drill down, small business mom and pops are probably seeing 0% increase. 68% of businesses are seeing a revenue decline. 68% of Missouri businesses are seeing a revenue decline. Small business mom and pop are likely 100%. You can drive through our community. It's like that across multiple municipalities and counties and cities. A lot of small businesses are struggling. So what's that look like for Lebanon and LaClede County? Unemployment claims, the initial unemployment claims weekly average between December and March 1st were about 3,000 across the state. Initial unemployment claims weekly average from March 14th through April 18th, about a month there, and on the weekly average was 79,500. 77,000 more than just the month prior. So LaClede County, latest information I could find, as of April 8th, nearly 7% unemployment. Camden County was 6.9. A lot of small business, they weren't, so you can tell. Pulaski County 4.0, Webster 3.9, and Greene 3.0. 983 claims in March. So Unemployment, I just say these things because clearly we're seeing, it's not the long tunnel approach now, we're clearly hoping to see the end of this tunnel, and that light is not a freight train, it's actually daylight on this other side. So next week, Lord willing, I'd like to come and speak about strengthening our recovery rather than some of these surveying the damage that we all know and we've all been touched by. So I thank you for the opportunity to share that. I've got some other really neat stories, and if you've got 30 seconds in this, is who's doing the timing on me? 30 seconds, all right. So I was on a call this week, and like every week, and several of you were on that call, but there's some success out here in our community, so I don't want to leave it all on, wow, this is kind of a downer, but it really is a downer, really. We have one company that was experiencing going to WorkShare, and they, in a matter of a week, are bringing people and doing now 60 hours a week because a sister plant in another country has been closed. That's a great gift to our community. Their employees are saying they're 90% real positive through this entire epidemic or pandemic, and that is excellent. Thank you for those workers in that company. Another company in our community is been able to continue to use their resources and find barrels of hand sanitizer, and they're bringing those back, and they're giving it away to those that can't find it and have a need for it. So thank you for that. We went through a tour and saw a local company that just finished building a $10 million project, and it's being shipped out and be set up in that factory within 30 days. And so it is an amazing thing what we continue to do in our community by the people that live and work here. We have another company that has not been they've been severely impacted, their work, but they found another path to do something else. And they've grown from doing 2,000 some gowns a day and thought they would never get that many to doing 7,500 gowns a day. And their people are just like, we want to get back to doing what we normally do. So it's just been a great to see the background and what's happening in the community, as well as seeing what every day we wake up and wondering, will we maybe get a positive today? When will we get to the end of this? Will it be possible that, that we'll be able to resume some kind of normalcy? And I think all of that's going to happen. And the next person that I want to share this with has got some decent news this morning. And this is a pastor in the community, and I'll call him my favorite radio announcer, Mr. Don Anderson.
Thank you, Daryl. A lot of folks have been questioning, when are we going to open churches back up? When are we going to be able to get back to some sort of normalcy with our worship? And I wanted to address some things this morning before we go over some guidelines. First of all, I want to announce that the church has never closed. The church buildings have had to lock their doors temporarily, but the church went outside the church building over the last month and have done some pretty incredible things. Daryl talked about gifts. I am so blessed to be a part of a community where I've seen pastors who have stepped up to do so many great, wonderful things. Churches are reaching out to help people. And the creativity of some of our pastors on their Facebook Live, some of our pastors in our community I never would have dreamed would have done Facebook, much less Facebook Live. And they're actually getting pretty good. They could be televangelists when we're done with this. So it's been amazing to see how the church has stepped up and responded. And even though the churches are technically, legally exempt from the closures, they could have been meeting if they pushed it. They chose to watch out for their parishioners and say, we'll follow the guidelines from the CDC and the health departments. And I can tell you, this community here in LaClede County, we have tried to listen to every word that Charla and her staff have been sharing with us to be able to do events and try to help minister in the community, but also be safe. And I also want to address an issue real quick that has been happening a lot here the last couple of weeks. We've seen on social media calling a double standard for churches, to where churches have to be closed, but certain businesses can be open. And I just want to address that. And there is not a double standard. As a pastor, I can tell you, someone who's worked very closely, sometimes every day, 7 days a week with Charla, through the various things I'm involved in, there is not a double standard. There is a lack of being able to comply with the ordinances and the things that have been put forth. The health department has released those things. Retailers know the rules, but where the problem is that there is no personal responsibility with some of us in the community. And I'll say myself too, because sometimes I find myself getting a little too close to someone when I see them, and I have to remind myself, oops, I need to back up. When you go to a store, it's not the store's fault that people are standing there talking to each other. It's the people's fault that we're standing there talking to each other. So I think we need to get back to a mindset to where we're not blaming the government officials and the health officials for a double standard, because our standard is the same as their standard. Everybody has the same standard, but the problem is we've just not been socially responsible. We've neglected the personal responsibility we have. So I would like to hear that conversation end personally, because I know how hard our mayor and our council, our commissioners, and especially our health department, our health officials have worked so hard to try to do the very best to be fair and to keep everything on an even playing field for everyone. And I appreciate that. So we need to appreciate and start taking more personal responsibility to social distance ourselves in those places. And one last thing, the presentation today is not an all clear for you to open your church. We met this week, myself and Brother Kelly and another pastor in our community. We met this week and with the health officials and talked to them, presented our plan and recommendations. We made a few little tweaks, and we have come to what we've done today as far as recommendations. We're not saying that this is the time to open churches. Every church is different. Every congregation is different. Every facility is different. It's made up of different ages, different health issues, different sizes, different rooms, different auditoriums, different cleaning, ways of cleaning. So every church is going to need to be responsible for opening up when they feel they can be able to keep their people safe in the community. Not just because Don said that May 3rd is the time to open. I hope that churches if your church is a high-risk congregation, I hope you'll continue to stay closed. And I support that. And I know Charlotte supports that, and the community supports that. This is not an all clear. This is, if you are going to open, here's the things that we recommend you doing before you open, okay? And even though we have 0 cases, I can tell you, I would not want to be the church that everybody who tested positive in LaClede County when we got our first test back that were positive, the only thing they had in common was going to the church where I pastor. I don't want that. And I know no pastor would want that. So if you're a pastor today or you're a church leader, you need to really examine, is it time to open? And if it is, here's what we need to look at. So let's look at this, the list that we've come up with, and I'll give you how you can get a copy of this if you'd like to a little bit later when we get done. First of all, if you begin to say, I'm going to open, you have accepted a responsibility to be socially responsible. Okay, not just spiritually in concern for your congregation, but also a next level of being socially concerned to make sure that they are practicing these things and your facility is able to support these things that we're talking about. First of all, social distancing, you hear that a lot. We're all tired of hearing it, but it's the way that we're keeping 0 cases in LaClede County right now. Social distancing is a big part of this. We're encouraging churches to encourage families, if you're going to meet together, to sit together as a family group, but be seated at least 6 feet apart from other families, okay? At our church, we're huggers and we're handshakers. But if we decide to open, and I say if, I've got to meet with some people to decide if we're even going to open, but if we do, we're not going to be hugging and handshaking. We're going to smile at each other from 6 feet apart and say, welcome, it's good to see you. And then we're going to go on and sit in our personal space. So keep families together, but separated from other families. If someone chooses to wear a face covering, it should be allowed, and we encourage that. If you want to wear a face covering, they're not thinking you're there to rob the church offering. What you're doing is you're protecting yourself, and you're also hoping to protect other people around you. So be very conscious about that. We encourage you that if you open your facility, to post social distancing signs and reminders on doors, video screens, and make announcements from the pulpit often, letting folks know, reminding them social distancing, 6 feet apart, and to try to practice that as much as you can. And you might also include on that sign, give folks the option to say, if you're not feeling well, if you have a fever, if you're sick now, you're more than welcome to join us online. Our churches have been great with their online worship. You're more than welcome to join us online until you get to feeling better, and then we would love to have you come back. We're encouraging churches to try and limit their attendance to 30% of their seating capacity. 30% of their seating capacity. And some churches say, well, I can't do that. Who am I going to pick? You don't have to pick. You add additional services. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but you add additional services. You may do a Saturday night service. You may do 2 Sunday morning services, or maybe you might do a special service for those who are at risk. If you have some people in your church that are elderly, a lot of the businesses are doing special shopping times for those. If they're at risk, do a special service for them. That way, they know that you care about that and you're wanting to protect them. But there's a lot of alternatives, but only 30% of your seating capacity. You may have to open a balcony, Sunday school room, or maybe a fellowship hall that's big enough to be able to fit a few people in with a video screen. But try to maintain social distancing and limit to just 30%. It's also recommended that churches, for at least through the month of May, not hold Sunday schools, small youth group settings, also small groups, special dinners. That one hurts. It's been a long time since we've had a church dinner. But at least through the month of May, till we get past this, and maybe longer, don't have a church dinner. Don't get along with that. Any event that would draw a crowd, try to refrain from doing that through at least the month of May. And it's also recommended that churches not offer nursery or children's church ministries through the month of May anyway. A lot of us grew up having to sit with our mom and dads in church, and we got our ears pinched when we were wrong. A lot of kids don't have to grow up that way today. They may have to do that. But it was also brought up in our meeting that if a family feels like that they've got several small children, by all means, nobody's going to shun you or feel judgmental against you because you decide to stay home and the church is open. We understand. Keep your family safe. Keep them at home. That's perfectly fine. But if you choose to go, families should be sitting together from all ages to be able to do that. The date that we're encouraging churches not to open before is May 2nd and 3rd. That's Saturday and Sunday, a week from this weekend. And the reason for that is the governor is talking about opening the state back up on May the 4th. That would be just right in within a day of what he's talking about for businesses. So if you're going to do it, please refrain from doing it until then. That gives you a chance to be able to let your congregation know what your plan is, let your staff know what you're going to be doing, take the appropriate measures for setting up your facility for it. Gives you a week and a half to be able to get your church ready for that. And then the next category is cleanliness and godliness. These things go together. You've heard that growing up. Offer plenty of hand sanitizer in various locations around your facility and encourage people to use it. Have volunteers do cleaning after each service. If you do 2 services on Sunday, in between services, allow enough time for volunteers to go with gloves, wipe down where everybody's set, wipe down everything, the doors and everything, to be able to keep things safe. Shorten your service times. This is hard for us preachers. Shorten your service times to 45 minutes or less. And the reason we're doing that, some people may say, well, you're in the room. What's it matter? You're sitting there away from everybody. The longer you're in a confined space, the more chance you have for exposure from those around you. The 6 foot works great for a few minutes, but after a while, you're breathing the same air. You're doing all the same things together. So we encourage you to keep your services, if you're going to have them, 45 minutes or less. And that gives you the opportunity to get your people in. They can enjoy worship, and then they can go out and feel good about being able to be in church. Also, it decreases the time that people would need to go to the restroom. Encourage your churches. This may sound odd, but encourage them before you come to church. Make sure everybody goes to the restroom. That way, that's not a place that's cross-contaminated. If you have someone there that can watch the restrooms and clean them if needed, that's fine. But that's another issue that we need to watch on that if we're going to have church. And this one was one that I didn't really think of until the meeting the other day, but don't pass the offering plate. We don't meet at church without taking an offering, but you can still have your offering, but don't pass the plate, because of all the people that touch that plate down the row. So some of the suggestions are do an offering box or an offering container as people walk in and as they walk out. Give them that opportunity to give into that box. Or you can place, if you've got a small enough congregation, one person can walk and be able to do that and nobody else touch the plate. But find a creative way. Online giving, there's so many different ways that you can give without passing the offering plate. So we need to keep those creative thoughts going. And then also, we encourage whoever's going to be counting the money to do it wearing gloves. Be very careful about that. And to just be very careful, take care of those people who are taking care of your finances. And finally, if your church offers communion, we recommend, and it's to use individual communion packets. Communion does not have to be eliminated. It just needs to be done differently. And you can pack up single and little baggies, communion packs with the bread and little thing of juice for folks to be able to use. Or you can even actually go buy them. They sell them in most bookstores. You can find them online. It gives you another week and a half to get ready for it. You can do the prepackaged communion packets, and those work out really well too. So those are some good things to be able to do to keep everyone safe. And basically, we just want to encourage you. And we're praying. I know the hearts of these people that are standing before you today and the leaders of our community and how hard they're working to try to get people back to a life of normal. Church is one of those things they want you to be able to experience again. But we want to make sure it's safe. So if you don't want to open up your church this next Sunday on May the 3rd, if you don't want to open it for the whole month of May, that's wonderful. You do what's safe for your church. You do what's safe for your community. But if you choose to do it, you take on a higher responsibility and a higher standard that you have to maintain to be able to protect the people who come through your doors and to be able to make sure that they're okay. So these guidelines, if you don't have a copy, I tried to send it out to as many pastors as I could this morning. If you would like a copy of this, you can email me at revdon3, REVDON, the number 3, at gmail.com. revdon3@gmail.com, and I will email you this copy. And on that, there's a little place at the bottom that Charlotte would like to have. This is not government oversight for the conspiracy theorist. This is something that gives Charlotte the opportunity that if your church is going to participate in worship and you're going to be able to meet together and you agree to these guidelines, if you can send her the bottom part of it, just who the church is, who the contact person is, and their telephone number, if somebody calls and says that church is meeting over there, she can pull that out of her file and say, yes, they are, and they've agreed to abide by a lot of things. So it protects your church from people saying things negative about it. And it also gives her a resource that she can pull from to know that churches are working and abiding by the guidelines that they've suggested. So we encourage you to do that. We thank you for the service you've done. Thank you for the online. I've been a church hopper the last month. I have watched so many different sermons, so many different pastors in our community and have been blessed. So thank you for that. If you want to continue to do online worship, please do that. But thank you for what you do in our community, and God bless you, and we appreciate all those who serve our community. So, Kelly, I'll let you have it next.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Kelly Rhodes. I am one of the pastors here at LifePoint Church. We have been a part of a lot of these discussions from the very beginning of this. I do want to say we are unique in LaClede County because our leadership, Charlotte Health Department, our Office of Emergency Management, they were meeting, discussing these things far in advance. I think it's one of the reasons why we've been protected. And I cannot support and applaud their actions more than I have. They've done a fantastic job of protecting us as citizens. moving forward is going to be decisions that we all have to make. It's personal decisions. If you're a church leader watching this, you're someone who is a church person, you want to get back to church, I can't stress enough that if your church decides to have services on May 3rd, that does not mean that you are more spiritually in tune or at a higher level of faith than someone who chooses to wait until June 1st or whatever. Every church is different. Every church has different levels of susceptibility to this based on their demographic and their population. Every church should have an individualized plan because every church is different. Every church has different numbers of entrances and exits and classrooms and sanctuary sizes and configurations. So you need to take some time to go through these guidelines. Even if you're saying, hey, we're not going to open up the 3rd or the 10th, you're going to open up later in the month, you still need to look at these guidelines because this is still a very serious issue. If you choose to lay off and not open right now and take it into the summer, again, that doesn't mean that you have more faith than someone else. The last thing we need is to find ways to elevate us and by putting someone else down at any level in the community. What we're doing at LifePoint is we're having some discussions. We are a larger congregation, and we have a lot of moving parts on every Sunday morning. We've already been doing multiple services, but it's going to be more complicated for us to figure out how to do that. So if you're part of LifePoint and you want to know about what we're doing, we're going to let you know as soon as we have that plan mapped out. With that, not only are we going to comply with the list that Don just read to everybody, but we're going to put together a plan for the health department so they can know this is how LifePoint is addressing these issues. This is when our service times are going to be. This is what we're doing about the cleanliness of the bathrooms. This is where hand sanitizer is stationed. This is where the entrance is, and this is where the exit will be for the building. Going above and beyond in these things is absolutely more work, and it's absolutely worth it. We have an opportunity to see our community start to have a soft open, a slow rollout. And that's what we need. And I believe if we do this well, we can get people their help. One thing that I have seen as a pastor is that people who've had anxiety and depression have now had that at a higher level. People who are struggling with addiction have now been able to not been able to get the social support that they need. We need connection. And this is one way that we can begin to address those needs to hopefully provide help and hope for many in our community. And so let's do this, and let's do this in organized fashion. These guidelines are well thought out, not by a bunch of preachers sitting in a closet somewhere, but by our officials and our experts who gave us this input. And we have a good plan, and so we're going to roll it out with wisdom and responsibility. When people come back to church, they're going to come back to a compassionate, caring facility that's taking proper precautions. And so that's what we're doing at LifePoint. Please speak with your pastors. Pastors, speak with your congregation. The personal responsibility is the thing that comes back here. If you are over the age of 65, or if you have young kids, or if you feel like you may be immunocompromised, my son is a severe asthmatic. We're going to take different precautions based on our level of responsibility and susceptibility. That's just wise. And so we expect and would ask for every family to do the same. We will continue to offer our online experience. We're going to make that the best experience it can possibly be. But we are also going to create avenues for people who need social connection, who need to experience life normal, who need to get back to normal, because we can. We still don't have any positive cases. Praise the Lord for that. But we're going to start slowly and responsibly moving in that direction. Who would be the next speaker this morning?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lebanon Mayor Jared Carr, and I just want to say, reiterate some of the things that have already been said today, and I have a couple other things I want to add as well of what is happening in the community, and I just want to echo, and I've said it every time I've been up here, but thank you to Charlotte and her team over at the LACLEDE County Health Department. I think they've done a fantastic job of presenting information that is relevant to LACLEDE County and informative to the citizens of LACLEDE County in the Lebanon area. And we appreciate all the hard work and effort that you guys put in every day and have throughout this whole pandemic, and will for months to come, I'm sure, as we work through this as a community. One of the things that we've done, that we've talked about, or that I've talked about, is working as a community. And I really, and some of the things that have been said today about personal responsibility, and I think we're at that last little bit, as Daryl mentioned earlier, going at that tunnel, with seeing the daylight at the end of that tunnel, and we can see that now. And we're working on plans to be able to get out of this tunnel and come out into the daylight. But it is completely up to you and your personal choices that you make to be able to do this as a community as a whole. To maintain this social distance, this last little bit to get us through this, to get us effort. It is tremendous that we still have 0 positive cases in Lebanon and Laclede County. And I've said this before, I think we'd be fooling ourselves to think it's not here somewhere. It just hasn't presented itself in a form that we haven't had a case yet. And truly getting through that tunnel is up to you, and whether or not we're going to come out of this and be able to open up at some X date in the future fully is completely up to you. And I can stand here and we can keep doing these meetings and presenting information, but it's completely up to you as the community. On that note, with community in mind, I'm so proud of what our community does to help out each other, and so tremendous that a couple weeks ago we started this Funds for Food program with the Lebanon Area Foundation, and I'm pleased to announce that they just told me that they have raised over $16,000 through Funds for Food, which is going to provide 64,000 meals just right here for our local food pantries in our community. And our goal was 15,000, and we've already exceeded that, and this program will keep on going as long as we need it to go. So I would encourage you to look it up on Facebook, Funds for Food, and that's the number 4 on that, and make donations. The community is going to be grateful for this, and we truly do need it for everybody that has been displaced by this COVID-19 pandemic. And just truly a testament to this community of staying together and staying Lebanon strong. So thank you very much. That's all I have for today, and do appreciate everybody's hard work, and let's get through this together. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Randy Angst, Laclede County Presiding Commissioner, and I would just like to open with a quote from Winston Churchill. Fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. 57 days ago, the Laclede County Office of Emergency Management, under the leadership of Randy Rowe, our OEM Director, with the cooperation of the Laclede County Health Department, held the first meeting regarding COVID-19. At that time, COVID-19 was a major concern. It was being watched closely by the Missouri Department of Health and Human Services and the Laclede County Health Department. Even when the risk was low, at that time was considered to be low for Laclede County. OEM and the Laclede County Health Department did not react out of fear, but with a vision and a plan to keep Laclede County citizens informed, prepared, and safe from this pandemic. As the pandemic spread and the risk to our country, our state, and our community increased, difficult decisions had to be made. Missouri Governor Mike Parson issued a stay-at-home order that began on Monday, April 6th, and it was to end on Friday, April 24th. However, Governor Parson had to extend that stay-at-home order, and it, at the present time, will end on May 4th. These decisions at all levels of government were made thoughtfully and prayerfully. It took courage to make these decisions, knowing that it would impact our daily lives in ways that none of us would have ever imagined, and will require more time to fully understand the lasting impact it will have on our way of life. We do know more today than we did 57 days ago when we first met. We will know more tomorrow than we know today. But now's the time to make another decision, a decision that will require all of us working together to begin the process of reopening our churches, our businesses, our factories, essentially restoring our way of life that we as Americans enjoy more than any other country in the world. And it will require courage to make that decision. And each of us has a responsibility to our fellow man as we begin this process in a way that we will not see a relapse in the progress that has brought us to this point today. We will continue to work together as we begin the process of reopening our community and resume our normal activities. I am encouraging everyone in this room, everyone that is watching this broadcast, and every person in LaClede County to begin this process in a thoughtful, deliberate, common sense way that will achieve what we all desire, a safe, healthy, and thriving community that we all call home. I will end with this Churchill quote. A politician needs the ability to foretell what is going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year, and to have the ability afterwards to explain why it didn't happen. Let's work together as we begin the process for the common good of LaClede County so that we can look back and explain why good things did happen in LaClede County. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jared Shoemaker. I am the IT director for the City of Lebanon. I also work with OEM and county on some joint initiatives. This morning, I'd like to take the opportunity to inform the public about our NIXL program, which is an integrated alert public warning system. And this alert system is designed to keep the public, the citizens of LaClede County and Lebanon, informed of items such as tornadoes, or if there's a hazmat spill or road closures, anything that we deem as an emergency for the public. We will send this out through our NIXL system, and it's pretty simple to register. All you have to do is type Lebanon Mo and or LaClede Mo. Either one will get you into, depending on where you live, our system. And you would text it to 888-777. And it's pretty simple from there. You'll get an email back or a text back that gives you further detail if you want to register emails or phone numbers, landline phone numbers. But it's simple just by texting Lebanon Mo or LaClede Mo to 888-777. You will receive all the alerts that we push out. For example, we're hitting some weather situations coming up, hitting that season again with tornadoes, and all that's pushed through National Weather Service or that we deem locally as extreme or importance, we will send it out and push it through the alert system. So I please, again, highly recommend registering through our NIXL program, 888-777. Type in Lebanon Mo or LaClede Mo. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. My name is Randy Rowe, OEM Director, Region I, LaClede County. I want to thank everybody for being here, the subject matter experts we have in the room. I know that all of you have been working basically 7 days a week since we called this little first meeting on February 27th. OEM and the Health Department fired up the LaClede County Coronavirus Task Force on February 27th at my office. And we've met every Thursday since then with facts and subject matter experts from our community and abroad. LifePoint Church offered their facility to simulcast this meeting about 6 weeks ago and have done a tremendous job. And we thank LifePoint for their commitment to the community. Thank you, Kelly, and all of your staff. And it has been pushed out to 7,500 people on low end to 10,800 people and their friends. And I don't know how many times it's been rebroadcasted. So, it's been a very, very good tool. And I thank LifePoint staff for presenting this simulcast. Now I want to talk about leadership, courage, and character. Leadership, courage, and character a moment. This Chinese virus has caused a crisis here in Missouri and a nationwide pandemic. It has brought to the table great leadership from our elected officials, some of which you've heard from this morning. Our elected officials have been receiving calls basically 24/7 since February 27th. And I just want to applaud all of the elected officials, bipartisan on both sides. They've done a great job and led this community in Region I as well as could be expected plus. On the courage end of it, we have a tremendous courage, have had a tremendous show of courage from our red team, our blue team, and our golden teams. Our red team is fire department on everything they've responded to. They didn't hesitate a moment, even though they didn't have enough N95 masks and gowns and protective equipment. They responded. They continued to save lives. I pat them on the back for that. Law enforcement, it didn't slow down a bit. If there was domestic violence in Eldridge or in competition, they rolled on, did their job, and have worked every day 24/7 during this crisis with no downtime. EMS, health department, and medical, 24/7, 24/7. I can't tell you the telephone calls that I've received with Charlotte Baker, the director of the LaClede County Health Department, on Sundays, on Monday evenings, on Thursdays. I mean, she has worked, and her staff has worked 24/7 since this started. Now let's talk about character. True character from you, the citizens of Region I and LaClede County, for responding immediately to all the suggestions from the LaClede County Health Department and your elected officials, your LaClede County Commission, Lebanon City Mayor, and administration for the city. When we put the warnings out and the suggestions out early, you abided by those. And folks, the numbers don't tell lies. It isn't that we're lucky that we have 0 positives. It's because of the early education and because of you responding in a responsible manner and separating and social distancing and doing what we did. I mean, we've had very few negative calls throughout the complete county city administration. You all followed those suggestions. We didn't have to put an order in or make a law. We could have, but we didn't. We made suggestions. And you followed your elected officials and the health department and OEM suggestions. And again, the numbers do not lie. That's why that's a big portion of why we have 0 positives in LaClede County as LaClede County residents. Also, special thanks to the LaClede County Sheriff, David Millsap, and his staff for keeping the virus out of the LaClede County Corrections Facility. We've had 0 problems in our county jail. That again, it's not luck, that's skill. Luck has very little to do with this. We've all gotten together, we did the right thing for the right reason, and the proof is that we have 0 at this time. I think that the next step will be after the church soft openings, and I want to thank Don and Larry and Kelly and Charla for the good meeting we had 2 days ago to put this together. I think that it's a top shelf draft document, and I would expect nothing less from this group on the church soft opening. I think now we need to start our mindset from an OEM standpoint to opening soft opening for majority of our businesses, retail and every other entity in Laclede County Region I. Again, soft opening. Do what you think you need to do to protect your employees and all of your invitees and customers. And we'll talk about that a little bit more next week at the next meeting that we have here at LifePoint. And again, I want to applaud all of those involved in the management of this pandemic and crisis from Laclede County. You all have done a great job. We have one team, and that team has been very much top shelf. Everybody has gotten along. We've had a round table on several different occasions, and good information has come out of that round table. And we're all part of one team. There are no City of Lebanon, Laclede County, Missouri Highway Patrol. We're all one single team. And we've taken the guidance of Charlotte Baker and the Laclede County Health Department, and she's always been there for good information. If she doesn't have the answer, her answer is, I will get back with you ASAP. And she contacts subject matter experts and has gotten right back with us, day or night, 24/7. So I want to applaud all of those that are involved in this task force. We're going to continue this meeting until we deem it no longer necessary, and we'll go from week to week. And I just want to thank everybody, and I'll go ahead and let my Deputy Director, Brian Armstrong, close us out.
I'd like to thank everyone that has been here today, working together, bringing us information out for all of our citizens and emergency services. We will be continuing pulling our information together to pass out to our citizens to protect our county. Anything that we can do, as always, we will be here to protect the county as best as we can. And at this time, we will close this meeting, thanking everyone, and we will be bringing all the information that we can, again, at this same time next week at this same location. Thanks, everyone, for being here today.